Okay, so up above 12.6, I want you to write the following things, okay? Write the word line, and then leave some room and write parabola, and then leave some room and write the word circle. So those are the three things that you're going to be graphing today, okay? So right there where you put line, everybody put y equals mx plus b. Where it says parabola, everybody go y equals a times x minus h to the second plus k. For a circle, it's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to the radius squared. So if you're graphing a line, you need to get the equation so that it looks like y equals mx plus b. Same thing with parabola, same thing with circle. Another thing you have to do, guys, is you have to be able to look at the equation without doing anything to it and say, I know that's a line, I know that's a circle, I know that's a parabola, just by looking at it, okay? And it's easy to do. So if you have a line, then the y is to the first and the x is to the first. There are no seconds, okay? If you have a parabola, then the y is to the first and the x is to the second. Okay, there is no y squared, there is no x to the first. If you're graphing a circle, then you have an x to the second and you have a y to the second, but you have no x to the first and no y to the first, okay? So let's go ahead and start with this first problem right here. Here's a system of equations, and it's like the first half of the problem's already done for you. They've already graphed it. So the solution is where these two things cross. So you have a solution right there and you have a solution right there, okay? Make sure that everybody is just doing this right here. So put the review away, put everything away, all attention right here. I am sure that this is going to be on your final, okay? So the ordered pairs where those things cross, you guys, one of them is 5, 0, and the other one is 3, 4, and those are your answers. I can get those from the graph. Now, I think what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to solve this algebraically, okay? I think that the most common mistake when solving algebraically is right now, right at the beginning. So I want you to watch. It's not even doing any math. It's being able to reason through it. So listen. I prefer elimination big time to substitution. I will always use elimination if it's an option. The reason I like elimination is because substitution can get really messy, okay? So I prefer elimination. Look at equation 1 and look at the x's and equation 2. So equation 1 has an x to the second, equation 2 has an x. I can't get rid of those x's. Look at look at the y's, same thing. I cannot eliminate the y's because one is squared and one is not. So elimination is not an option on this problem. So now I know I'm going to have to use substitution, okay? Everybody look at equation 1. That would be the top one. I don't want to solve equation 1 for x or y because it's going to be a big pain because I'm going to have to square root. I'm going to have a plus or minus. It's going to just be a big mess. So now I want you to look at equation 2. I need to take equation 2 and I need to solve it for x or y. If I solve equation 2 for x, then I'm going to be creating what, everybody? A fraction, and I don't want a fraction. So the best option is to solve equation 2 for y. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, everybody freeze right here for 2 seconds. That reasoning that I just went through, I think is the #1 thing that people can't do. They can't recognize what's the best way to do it and how to do it, okay? Okay, so let's solve. So this is going to be y equals, the 2x comes over and you get 10 minus 2x. Now I'm going to go into the other equation, and right there where I see a y, I'm going to put in 10 minus 2x. So I have x to the second plus 10 minus 2x in parentheses squared equals 25. You guys, 10 minus 2x squared is not square the 10, square the -2x. You have to write it twice and FOIL it. Yeah, I'm going to do that in my head, okay? So 10 times 10 is 100. Then you have a -20x and another -20x. That gives me a -40x. A -2x times a -2x is a +4x squared equals 25. Now I know I'm going to have to factor, but before I factor, I've got to get my 0. So I'm going to clean this up. 1x plus 4x is 5x squared. Then you have a negative 4x. 25 comes over and becomes a negative. So I have plus 75. Don't forget your equals 0. Okay. What would you do next right here? Can someone tell me? What can you do to simplify it? Take out a 5. Yeah. Let's take out a 5 and you're left with x to the second minus 8x plus 15 is equal to 0. And then that factor, so it goes to an x and an x. Signs are the same, they're both negative. 5 and 3 multiply to give me 15 and add to give me 8. Some people think that that 5 sitting there will somehow alter the solution that those two things give. It does not. You just disregard it. So the x minus 3 gives you x equals 3. The x minus 5 gives you x equals 5. And then you come over here where you're going to write your answers. You make one ordered pair with an x being 3 and the other one with x being 5. You guys, the nice thing about substitution is you've got this equation right here where you solved it for y, and that's the easiest equation to use. You could use any equation that has an x and a y in it. That's the easiest one. So that would give me y equals 10, and negative 2 times 3 is a negative 6, and 10 minus 6 is a 4. And what if x was 5? Then you'd have y equals 10, and negative 2 times 5 is a negative 10. That gives me a 0, and there are your answers. And then you notice that those answers right there are exactly the same as the answers graphically. Well, of course they're the same answers. It's the same problem. So if you have the same equation and you do elimination and then substitution and then graphing, you're going to get the same answer every time. It's the same problem. So of course you're going to get the same answer. Okay? All right, question 2. We're going to graph these first, knowing that we are probably not going to have to graph on the final, which is going to be good news. At the beginning, the graphing's easy, and you're going to be like, what is she talking about? Graphing is difficult. It gets bad. So you're going to be glad by the time we're done with example 5, you're going to be like, I'm glad graphing's not going to be there. Okay? Everybody look at the top equation. I want you to tell me, is it a line or a parabola or a circle? It's a line. So everybody write down the word line. It's because they're both raised to the first. Tell me about the second one. What is that? That's a parabola. Okay. Now a line, behind line, after line, everybody put y equals mx plus b. And then by parabola, y equals a times x minus h to the second plus k. So we've got to get those equations to look like that so that I can graph it. Okay. So let's worry about this line. So I have to solve this for y. So I'm going to take this 2x and I'm going to pull it that way. So I have negative y equals negative 2x minus 4. But I'm supposed to be solving for y, so now I change the signs and I get y equals 2x plus 4. Okay, that's ready to go. Let's solve the parabola. So I'm going to take this negative y right here, pull it over to the right, and it becomes a positive. So then my next equation is y equals 2x squared. Now I'm just going to graph them. Okay, so let's look at the line. Y equals 2x plus 4. I'm going to go up 4 and make a dot. The slope is 2 over 1. So I'm going to go up 2 right 1, up 2 right 1, up 2 right 1, down 2 left 1, down 2 left 1, down 2 left 1. I'm going to make tons and tons of dots because one or more of these dots are quite likely going to be a solution. So I want to make as many as I can so that I make sure I can see my solution. Okay. The next equation is y equals 2x squared. So y equals 2x squared, right there, pencil at the origin, and then it has a stretch of 2. So instead of 1, 1, I'm going to go 1, 2. And then instead of 2, 4, I'm going to go 2 what, everybody? 2, 8. Good, and that's going to be up here at that point. Draw in your parabola, and there's your graph. Okay? The solutions are where they cross. So that would be here and here. So now I'm going to write up my solutions as ordered pairs, and those are negative 1, comma 2, and the other one is 2, 8, and now those are my answers, and I'm done. Okay? Now, I want you to take your pencil and I want you to kind of section that off, and I want you to forget everything we've just done, and now we're going to solve the same equation, but this time we're going to solve it algebraically. Okay? Everybody freeze and just look right here for a second, would you please? Here is the biggest thing that people can't do. Look at it. Okay, everybody freeze, please, right here. Can I eliminate my x's? Tell me that. I cannot, because one is squared and one is not. Can I eliminate my y's? Yes, I can. All I have to do is change one of the signs. Now freeze for just a second. If there was a y squared at the top as well, and there was no y squared at the bottom, could I then eliminate the y's? No. I could get rid of the y to the first, but I'd still have that squared. So I couldn't eliminate the y's if that were the scenario. Okay? That's not the scenario. So I'm going to take a negative and distribute it across that parenthesis. You could do either one. So I'm going to do negative 2x plus y equals 4. And then underneath, 2x to the second minus y equals 0. So the negative y and the positive y go away. Now everybody look right here. You have to be careful because I cannot combine a negative 2x and 2x squared. They're not like terms. One is squared and one isn't. So you just have to be careful and write that as 2x to the second minus 2x, and then you have an equals 4. I know I'm going to have to factor, but I have to get a 0 first, so I'm going to pull it over. So I have 2x to the second minus 2x minus 4. Please don't forget your equals 0. Tell me what you would do right now. Take out a 2. Now let me explain something. You don't have to take out a 2. You could factor it where it is right there. It's just easier if you take out a 2. So let's get those numbers smaller so my factoring is easier. So then I'm left with x to the second minus x minus 2 equals 0. And then I factor that, so it goes to an x and an x. The 2 goes to a 2 and a 1. Signs are different. Biggest is the negative. Looks like that. The 2 does nothing. The x plus 1 gives me an x equals negative 1. The x minus 2 gives me x equals positive 2. So I'm going to go over to where my answers are going to be. I'm going to put a 2 for x and a negative 1 for x. Okay? You guys, the tough thing about elimination is that finding that second variable is not as easy. Okay? So if you look at those equations, where's it going to be the easiest to let x be 2 and find your y? I would use the top equation. Okay, so I'm going to let x be a negative 1. So 2 times negative 1 is a negative 2 minus y equals negative 4. 2 comes over and becomes a positive. Negative y equals negative 2. Change my signs. Y equals 2. Now I'm going to let x be a 2. So 2 times 2 is 4 minus y equals negative 4. Pull my 4 over. Negative y equals negative 8. Change my signs. Y equals 8. I got the exact same answers of graphing. Of course I did. It's the same problem. Okay. All right, let's go to question 3. Solve by graphing first. Everybody in the room, tell me what the top equation is. What is that? It's a circle. Yes, let's write down the word circle. Underneath that, what is that? It's a parabola. Good. Okay, come over here and let's write this down and let me just explain something. Okay, so go x minus h to the second plus y minus k to the second is equal to radius to the second. Underneath that, write down the equation that they gave us for the circle. X to the second plus y to the second is equal to 4. The center of my circle is always hk. So the h is in parentheses with the x and squared. There's nothing there. So my h is a 0. The k is with the y in parentheses and squared. There's nothing there. So mine's a 0. Radius squared is 4. So that means radius must be, tell me everybody, must be 2. Yeah, square root of 4. Let's graph that circle. So everybody put a dot right at the center. And then go right 2, left 2, up 2, and down 2, and drawing your circle. Okay, the next one's a parabola. I have to solve it for y. So see that x squared? Pull it over. So now I have negative y equals negative x squared minus 2. Change your signs. Y equals x squared plus 2. That's just a parabola shifted up 2. So go to the graph, up 2, normal stretch, right one, up one, right 2, up 4, draw in your parabola, and there you go. Right here is your solution. That is the ordered pair 0, 2, and you're done. And you're still thinking, why does she say graphing is easy because that, or tough? Because that is not tough. 4 and 5 are going to be tough, and then we're going to be done with graphing. Okay, I do not think you're going to see graphing on this final. Okay, everybody look at this. Let's do it algebraically. Can I eliminate the x's? Tell me that. Yes, I can. Now freeze and look right here. If I chose for this guy to be the negative, then I would have a negative y squared when I distribute it. And then I'm going to try to factor with a negative y squared. I don't want to do that. So I'm not going to change that one. I'm actually going to change the other one. It doesn't matter which one you do. It's, it's not that big of a deal. So let's write down the first equation exactly the way it is. Distribute a negative and you get negative x to the second plus y equals 2. X squareds cancel. So now you have y to the second plus y equals 6. It was a minus before and I changed it to a plus. Okay, bring your 6 over. So it's y to the second plus y minus 6 equals 0. Then the 6 goes to a 2 and a 3. Signs are different. The biggest is the positive. So the 3 is the positive and the 2 is the negative. Set those equal to 0 and you get y equals negative 3 and positive 2. So I'm going to come up here to where I'm going to write my answer. I put in a 2. I put in a negative 3. Okay, now look at the original problems. Where would you choose to put in a value of y and find your x? I think I'd use maybe the second one. Okay, let's use the second one. So we're going to go x to the second minus y, which is a 2, is equal to negative 2. 2 comes over and becomes a positive. X squared equals 0. Square root x equals, there's no such thing as plus or minus 0. So it's just going to be 0. So if y is a 2, then x is 0. Let's do the next one. Put in a negative 3 for y. So you go x to the second minus a negative 3, that's a plus 3, is equal to negative 2. Pull your 3 over. X squared equals negative 5. Talk to me about what's going to happen right here, everybody. You're going to have an imaginary. And you can't graph an imaginary number. You can't graph an imaginary solution. So it's not going to work out. So you're going to say invalid solution. This is pretty important right here, guys. When you take your final and there's a solution that ends up being invalid, please do not box or highlight that solution. Sorry, I'm trying to erase here. Anyway, so your final answer is 0, 2, and that is the only thing that you highlight because that's the one that worked. Okay? Okay, who says this? So far, so good. Let me see how you're feeling. Okay, great. Okay, look at the top equation. Everybody tell me what this is. It's a circle. Tell me what the next one is. It's a line. Now, look at the circle. There's a problem. Can anybody see what the problem is with that circle? There's a y. You're exactly right. What if the y wasn't there? Then I'd be ready. My center would be 0, 0. My radius would be the square root of 12. It'd be done, right? The y is a problem. It can't be there. So what we're going to have to do to get rid of it is we're going to have to complete the square. Okay, so everybody go x to the second plus y to the second minus 4y plus blank equals 12 plus blank. So all I've done is just add some blanks. Okay, now I'm going to complete the square on the y's. So 4 divided by 2 is a 2. 2 to the second is a 4. So I'm going to add it there, and I'm going to add it there. And now what I'm going to do, you guys, is I'm going to factor this y right here. Okay, I'm going to factor those y's. So now I have x to the second plus the y to the second goes to a y. Do you see how this 4y is a negative? That's a negative right there. The square root of 4 is a 2, and the whole thing's squared. If I wrote y minus 2 times y minus 2 and FOILed it, I would get y to the second minus 4y plus 4. So those are the exact same thing. And then I have equals 16. Now I'm ready to graph my circle. So the center, the x coordinate is with the x in parentheses and squared. There's nothing there, it's a 0. The y coordinate is here. Now look, this is y minus k. So k must be 2. You don't have to think about it like that. All you have to do is, if there's a number there, change the sign. Okay? Radius squared is 16, so radius is 4. Let's graph it. Don't go right or left, but go up 2, then go out 4 units in each direction, and then draw in your circle. Try to make your circle look like a circle and not a diamond. Okay? Now let's solve the line. So take this negative y, pull it over to the right, and you get y equals x minus 2. I'm ready to graph it. So that's a y-intercept of negative 2. Then you go up one, right one, up one, right one, up one, right one, up one, right one. Draw in your line, and there it is. Okay, here's a solution right here. Here's a solution right there. Those ordered pairs would be 0, negative 2, and positive 4, positive 2, and I'm done. Okay, ignore everything you just did. Now we're going to do the same thing, but now we're going to do it graphically. Okay, here, right here, I think is the biggest hiccup that people come up with. Look, can I eliminate my x's? Everybody talk to me about that. I can't. Can I eliminate the y's? I can eliminate the y to the first and y to the first, but then I'm still going to have that y squared up there. So can I completely eliminate all the y's? No. So substitution is what I have to do. Okay? So the only time I use substitution is this kind of scenario when elimination is not going to work out. Okay? I don't want to solve equation 1 for anything because those squares are horrible. Equation 2 would be fine to solve for x or y. Either one is fine. Okay? I'm going to solve equation 2 for x. And I have x equals y plus 2. Now I'm going to go into equation 1, and right there I'm going to put in y plus 2. So in parentheses, go y plus 2 squared plus y squared minus 4y is equal to 12. Another big mistake that people make is they say y plus 2 squared is y squared plus 4. They don't FOIL. It's a big common error. Y plus 2 times y plus 2 FOILed is y to the second plus 4y plus 4. Write down what you have left, plus y to the second minus 4y equals 12. Now at first it looks like I need to bring my 12 over because I need to factor, but look what happens. 4y and negative 4y cancel away. So now all I'm going to have is a squared in a number, and I would rather square root that personally. So 1y squared and 1y squared is 2y squared. I'm going to pull the 4 to the other side, and I get an 8. And now I divide by 2, and I get y squared equals 4. And now I square root and I get y equals plus or minus 2. So I have one answer that has a 2 and one answer that has a negative 2. The sweet thing about substitution, is the second number is easy to find. So that would be x equals, if y is 2, 2 plus 2 is a 4. What about if y is a negative 2? Then you have negative 2 plus 2, which is a 0. There are my answers. Okay, you guys, the awesome thing about this lesson is every single problem that we've done so far is checkable. You can totally check it. When I was doing the extra credit review for you, and I was the one that I uploaded, there were so many that you could check. So when you take your quiz next Wednesday, or next, for you guys, is it Thursday? Yeah, on Thursday, make sure you check, okay? All right, here we go. Last graphing problem, okay? Tell me what the first line is. What shape is that? It's a parabola. Yep, let's write down parabola. The second one is a what? Tell me. It's a circle. But we have a problem on both of them. Look at the parabola. If the negative 4x wasn't there, easy. That's just a regular parabola shifted down 1, right? I can't have an x to the first. So I'm going to have to complete the square so that I can get rid of that x to the first, okay? So everybody pull that 1 over. So you have y plus 1 plus blank equals. On the right-hand side, x to the second minus 4x plus blank. So all that I've done is move my 1 over and added some blanks. Now I'm going to complete the square right here, okay? 4 divided by 2 is a 2. 2 to the second is a 4. So I'm going to add 4 here, and I'm going to add 4 there. Now that gives me y plus 5 equals. See this stuff right here, guys, on the right-hand side? I'm going to factor it. So that's going to factor 2 and x. And a minus. And the square root of 4 is a 2, and the whole thing squared. Now I'm going to pull my 5 over, and I get y equals x minus 2 to the second minus 5. I'm going to graph that right now. So that's a parabola shifted right 2 and down 5. So it's right there. Normal stretch. Right one up one, left one up one. Right 2 up 4, left 2 up 4. There's so much room up above. Let's do the next one. The next one would be 3 what? Tell me. 9. Yes. So 5 higher than the other one. And now I've got this nice, accurate, full parabola. Okay? Okay, let's do the next one. Look at this circle. We've got 2 problems because I have an x to the first and I have a y to the first. So I'm going to have to complete the square on both the x's and the y's. So everybody go x to the second minus 4x plus blank plus y to the second plus 14y plus blank equals negative 49 plus blank plus blank. Complete the square here, complete the square here. 4 divided by 2 is a 2. 2 to the second is a 4. So I'm going to add 4 there, and I'm going to add 4 there. 14 divided by 2 is a 7. 7 to the second is 49. So I'm going to put a 49 there, and I'm going to put a 49 there. Now I'm going to factor the x's. So that's going to give me an x and a minus. Square root of 4 is 2. Whole thing squared. Factor the y's. Y and a plus. Square root of 49 is 7. Whole thing squared. Negative 49, positive 49 cancel. And what I have left is a 4. So now I have a circle. The center of the circle is positive 2, negative 7. You have to change those signs. Radius squared is 4. So that tells me that radius is 2. So now I'm going to go right 2 and down 7. And then I'm going to go 2 units out in each direction. And then I'm going to draw my circle in. I'm done with the problem. The place where they hit is right there. So my answer is 2, -5, and I'm done. That's graphically. Now we're going to do the whole thing again. This one's going to be algebraically. Okay, so let's split these up. Okay, everybody look at it. The top guy has a y. The bottom guy has a y and a y squared. Can't do elimination. The top guy has an x squared and an x. The bottom guy has an x squared and an x. And the numbers match up perfectly. So can I eliminate the x's? Yes, I can. Now, some of you might be looking at this and you might be saying, yeah, I know I can, but that's pretty complicated. Look at the alternative. Everybody look and watch. If I said, okay, well, this guy solved for y, so I'm going to put a y here and a y there. Then I'm going to have a trinomial times a trinomial, multiply it out, get this big monster, distribute the 14 across a trinomial and clean it up. I don't want to do that. So I'm going for elimination. Okay. Now look at the second equation, how it's all set up, and the only thing you have on the right is a constant. Let's follow that formatting. Okay. So everybody write down x to the second minus 4x plus y to the second plus 14y equals -49. I'm going to take the top equation, I'm going to take these two things right here, and I'm going to pull them that way. Okay, so the y is just going to stay there as a plus y. The x squared comes over and becomes a -x squared. The minus 4x comes over and becomes a plus 4x. And then I have my equal sign, and on the right I have a -1. Well, now I've set it up so that those x's just go away because the signs got changed. So when -x squared, +x squared cancel, so do the x's cancel. So what I have left is y to the second plus 15y equals -50. I know I'm going to have to solve. I know I'm going to have to factor, so I'm going to move it over. So it's y to the second plus 15y plus 50 equals 0. Then I'm going to factor. So it goes to y and y. Signs are the same. They're both positive. 10 and 5 multiply to give me 50 and add to give me 15. So that gives me y equals -5 and -10. So I'm going to go to where I write my answer. And now I'm going to find the other one. Okay, now watch this. Look at the two original equations. Okay. One of them, they're both going to be bad to put in a value for y and find the x. Which one's going to be the least horrible, the top one or the bottom one? The top one, yeah. Okay, so everybody go x to the second minus 4x minus 1 equals -10. Now, I have to factor, so I'm going to pull my 10 over. So I have x to the second minus 4x plus 9 equals 0. Now, that doesn't factor. So since it doesn't factor, do I write invalid solution and throw that out? No. What do? Quadratic formula. X equals 4 plus or minus the square root of, please don't write -4 squared. What do I put? 16 minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is a 9, all over 2 times 1, which is a 2. Somebody talk to me about what we've got right here. What's going to happen? You've got a negative in the center in that root, which means you have an imaginary. I can't have an imaginary place where they cross. So yes, it is an invalid solution. It's not an invalid solution because it won't factor. It's an invalid solution because you're taking the square root of a negative. Okay, so this guy doesn't give me anything. Now let's do a -5. So everybody go x to the second minus 4x minus 1 equals -5. Pull your 5 over. x to the second minus 4x plus 4 equals 0. Now I factor, so it goes to x and x. Signs are the same, they're both negative. 2 and 2 multiply to give me 4 and add to give me 4. Set those equal to 0 and I get a 2. So my only answer is 2, -5, and I'm done. Totally checkable. Okay? All right, that was number 5. We're not going to graph anymore. Okay? I think that last one was about as tough as graphing will get. And now we're going to focus on what I think it's really going to look like. And Weber State throws lots of curves on these problems. So I'm going to show you lots of twists and show you how to deal with those if it happens, okay? Okay, first one. Number 6, can I use elimination? Talk to me about that. I can, okay? All I have to do is distribute a 2 right here, and then my y's will go away. So when I distribute a 2, I get 8x to the second minus 2y to the second is equal to 8. Then my y squares go away, and I have 11x to the second is equal to 44. Tell me what to do now. Divide, and you get x squared equals 4. Square root it, x equals, is it 2? Plus or minus 2. So you have to be careful. It's just a little risky. Don't forget the plus or minus. So you're going to have a solution of 2 comma something, -2 comma something. Okay. Now I'm going to go look at my original 2 equations, and I'm going to choose the one that I think is the easiest. I'm going to put something in for x, and I'm going to solve my y. Normally I would say avoid equation 2. Why would I tell you to avoid it? Because of that negative. But the y has the negative, and the y is what I'm looking for. So I think it's pretty safe to do it. Okay, so we're going to do equation 2. Let's do x as a 2. So everybody go 4 times 2 squared minus y squared is equal to 4. 2 squared is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So you have 16 minus y squared equals 4. Pull your 16 over, and you have -y squared equals -12. Change your signs. Y squared equals 12. Square root it, and you get y equals, what do I put right here? Plus or minus. And I can't write it as the square root of 12 because the square root of 12 will simplify. So take your 12, and that's 2 times 6. 6 is 2 times 3. So those come out, so it's really 2 square root of 3. So look what happened. When I put in a 2 for an x, I got 2 y values. So now I'm going to have an ordered pair of 2 comma 2 square root of 3, and then 2 comma -2 square root of 3. Okay? Now look how sweet this turns out. Look what happens when I put in a -2. Just change that 2 right there to a negative. A -2 squared, that's a -2 times a -2, which is a 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So I don't have to show any work because the end result is going to be exactly the same. So this next answer would be -2 comma 2 square root of 3 and -2 comma -2 square root of 3. And you actually end up with 4 answers on that one. Okay, question 7. Can I use elimination? Yes. I can eliminate my y's. So I'm going to take this y and pull it that way. So then I have x minus y squared equals -1. Now I'm going to take those 2 equations and try to eliminate the y's. All I have to do is distribute a 3. So then I have 3x minus 3y squared is equal to -3. Then I'm going to write the second equation down, which is x to the second plus 3y squared equals 13. The y squareds go away. The x's and the x squareds cannot be added, so it's x to the second plus 3x equals 10. Then I pull my 10 over and it becomes a negative. X to the second plus 3x minus 10 equals 0. Factor x and x. 10 goes to 5 and 2. 5 and 2 multiply to give me 10 and subtract to give me 3. Biggest is a positive. So I get x equals 2 and negative 5. Then I'm going to come right here and put a 2 and put a negative 5. I'm putting in for my x and I'm finding my y. Which one do you think is going to be the easiest? Original 1 or original 2? I would do 2. But you know what I'm going to do to 2 first? I'm going to solve it for y squared. So I'm going to have y squared equals x plus 1. That's going to help me a little bit. So now let's put in a 2 for x. So y squared equals 2 plus 1. That's y squared equals 3. Square root it. Y equals plus or minus the square root of 3. So I have 2 square root of 3 and 2 comma negative square root of 3. Let's do the next one. Now x is a negative 5. So that's y squared equals negative 5 plus 1. So that's y squared equals negative 4. Talk to me about that. Invalid. Okay. So let's write invalid solution. Box or highlight only the ones that work. And you're done. Okay. Okay, that was number 7. Okay, look at number 8. No joke. That showed up on my final. So I taught my students how to do these systems. Everybody felt really good. Got the final and I looked at it. That's what it looked like. So they twist it. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, great. But if you stay calm and you just look at it, just look for a second. It's not great, but it's not as horrible as it seems. Can anybody see what we can do? Go ahead, Hope.
You just multiply a negative by either 1 here or 2 over y.
Yeah, the y's are going to go away. 2 over y and 2 over y. Good. You're exactly right. So the one that's best to change the signs of, I think, is the second one because there are so many negatives. So it just knocks out lots of those negatives. So then you have a negative 2 over y and a positive 2 over y, and those go away. Now, if you don't know how to add fractions, you're not going to get any further than that. So what is 1 over x plus 3 over x? What is that? 4 over x. Okay, 4 over x equals 12. Guys, look right here for a second. Everybody look up. I feel like there are a lot of you that don't naturally know what to do next. And I've said this before, and I got to get you to go just like, oh, I can see exactly what to do. Because it's so much easier. What do? Cross multiply. Cross multiply. Add a 1 and cross multiply. And you get 12x equals 4. Divide by 12, x equals 1/3. And yes, my students got a fraction when they did it. Okay. Now we have to go back in and we have to put a 1/3 in for x and we have to find the y. Look at those equations. Where would you choose to put a 1/3 in for x, the top or the bottom? I'd say the top, personally. You know why I say top? Mostly because 1 and 2 are smaller than 3 and 2, right? And I don't have all those negatives, so I definitely say top, okay? So I'm going to go 1 over 1/3 minus 2 over y is equal to 5. Does anybody know off the top of their head what 1 divided by 1/3 is? It's okay. Look, write this down. 1 divided by 1/3. That's the same as 1 over 1, right? 1 is 1 over 1, multiplied by 3 over 1. 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times 1 is 1. That's just 3. You could also put it in your calculator. It's a little tricky, though. You have to remember to put parentheses right there, okay? This is minus 2 over y equals 5. Tell me what to do. move your 3, right? So you have negative 2 over y is 5 minus 3, which is 2. This should come immediate. Next step, what are we going to do? Cross multiply. 2y equals negative 2. Divide by 2, y equals negative 1. Come right here, put in your negative 1, check your answer, and you're done. Okay? All right. Squeeze the problem in somewhere. Okay? 2x plus 3y equals 1. 4x squared plus 9y squared is equal to 13. Everybody just freeze and let's talk for a second, okay? Okay, can I eliminate the x's? Tell me that. No. Can I eliminate the y's? Tell me that. No. So elimination is not an option. Look at the second equation. Do I want to solve the second equation for x or y? Never. It's a train wreck, right? Square roots, plus or minus, it's terrible. Look at the top one. If I solve for x, or if I solve for y, I'm creating a what? Creating a fraction. We're going to have to just deal with it, okay? Let's solve equation 1 for x, okay? So everybody go 2x equals 1 minus 3y. Divide by 2, x is 1 minus 3y over 2. Freeze right here and let me say something. Someone yesterday said, let's take that and put it here. Well, that came from equation 1, and you're putting it back into 1. You can't do that. If you solved equation 1, you got to stick it in 2. If you solve for 2, you got to stick it in 1. So don't do that, okay? All right, so now we're going to take equation 2, and I'm going to replace x with that. So everybody go 4, and then a big parenthesis, 1 minus 3y over 2 plus 9y squared equals 13. Squared. Thank you. Okay, so leave that squared business empty and write everything down, and all I'm going to do is square that. You guys, if the whole thing is squared, that just means square the top and square the bottom. Well, 2 squared is 4. That's easy. 1 minus 3y squared, that's 1 minus 3y times 1 minus 3y, so I have to FOIL it. When I do that, I get 1 minus 6y plus 9y squared. Now, look how sweet this ends up. Remember, this was on the final last semester. They twist it. So see the 4? That's going to cancel with the 4, so that's sweet. So now my fractions are gone. So now I have 1 minus 6y plus 9y squared plus 9y squared is equal to 13. The rest is easy. Pull your 13 over. So you have 18y squared minus 6y. 13 comes over, minus 12 equals 0. What would you do right here? Take out a 6, and you're left with 3y squared minus y minus 2 equals 0. Then I'm going to factor. So it's going to go to a 3y and a plain y. 2 is going to go to a 2 and a 1 like that. The biggest is the negative. So there's your factorization. The 6 gives me nothing. The y gives me a negative 2/3. And the next one gives me a 1. So I'm going to have 2 answers. One with a negative 2/3. One with a 1. Now, I did have to use substitution. So the good thing about substitution is it's easier to find the second point. So I'm going to come right here to that circled. I'm going to put negative 2/3 in for y. So everybody go x equals 1 minus 3 times a negative 2/3 divided by 2. That's so messy up there, guys. Grab your calculator and go 1 minus 3 parenthesis, negative 2 divided by 3, close it, enter, and I get a 3. So that gives me a 3 over 2. Next one, x equals 1 minus 3 times y, which is 1, over 2. You can put that in your calculator, or a negative 3 times 1 is a negative 3. 1 minus 3 is a negative 2. So you get a negative 2 over 2, you get a negative 1, and you're done. Okay? All right. We're almost done. 2 more. Look how they twist it. I'm sure they're going to twist some stuff on you. So this is what you do. Listen. You look at the problem and you say, I know how to solve a system. I'm good at it. This just looks weird. And you just stay calm and you just do it. Just apply everything you know and you can figure it out. So can I use elimination on this problem? Yes or no? If you're not answering me, which nobody's really answering me, that scares me. Can I use elimination? I cannot. The top guy has an x and a y in one term, and the bottom one has just an x and just a y. Can't happen. So I'm going to have to use substitution. Do I want to solve equation 1 for anything? No, that's terrible. So I'm going to do equation 2, either x or y, who cares? So let's do x. X equals 2 minus y. I'm going to go into the top equation, and where I see an x, I'm going to put in 2 minus y. So I'm going to go 2 minus y times y equals negative 5 over 4. Now, it's a little weird to have that y at the end. It's typical to have it at the beginning. It just means distribute, so it's fine. So we have 2y minus y squared equals negative 5 over 4. Now, I don't want that fraction, obviously, right? So you could think about it in several ways. Multiply both sides by 4. Better yet, let's just cross multiply. Put a 1 underneath. You'll just have to distribute the 4. So you would get 8y minus 4y squared is equal to negative 5. Now, I know I'm going to have to factor, and I don't want that y squared to be negative, so I'm going to take those and pull them that way. So now I have 4y squared minus 8y minus 5 equals 0. Now let's think about this. The 4y squared could go to a 4 and a 1 or a 2 and a 2. The 5 is going to go to a 5 and a 1. So can I take a 4 and a 1 and a 5 and a 1 and pair those up somehow and subtract to get an 8? No. So I know it's not going to be 4 and 1. I know it's going to be 2 and 2. So it's going to have to be 2y and 2y. And then the 5 is going to go to a 5 and a 1. So that would give me 10 and 2, which subtracts to give me 8. So it totally works. The biggest is the negative. So the negative goes there and the positive goes there. And then I'm going to set those equal to each other. And when I do, sorry, the pen's just not transitioning well. Set those equal to 0, I get negative 1/2. Set that equal to 0, I get a positive 5/2. So come over here, negative 1/2, come right there, 5/2. Now I use substitution, which is nice. So I solve for x. So now I'm going to go x equals 2 minus a negative 1/2. That's plus 1/2. So that's 2.5. Do the 5/2. X equals 2 minus 5/2. You guys, when you see fractions, you panic. You're so smart. Look, 2 is the same thing as 4/2. 4/2 is 2. Now I've got my common denominator, which is a 2. 4 minus 5 is a negative 1. And I get, this is 2.5. And this guy is a negative 1/2. And the second I get done, then I'll check. Okay, last one. 4 more lessons after this. You are so close. 3 of the 4, you're going to be like, I'm fine. You know what it is? Sequences. arithmetic sequences, geometric sequences. 13.1 is a general lesson about sequences. It's easy. Okay, here we go. Example 10. The sum of two numbers is 7. So let's call them x and y. So take x, add it to y, and you get a 7. The sum of their squares is 29. So x squared plus y squared equals 29. I cannot use elimination. Okay, so I'm going to have to use substitution. I'm going to solve the top equation for x. So x is 7 minus y. I could put negative y plus 7, but then I'm going to have to FOIL, and that's kind of confusing. So I always put the negative in the center. Come right here, and let's fill that in. So it's 7 minus y squared plus y squared equals 29. 7 minus y squared FOILing, 7 times 7 is 49. Negative 7y is a negative 14y. A negative y times a negative y is a positive y squared, plus y squared equals 29. I know I'm going to have to factor, so I'm going to pull that 29 over. 1y plus 1y is 2y, so I have 2y minus 14y. 29 comes over and becomes a negative, plus 20 equals 0. Tell me what to do now. Take out a 2. This should be a squared. Sorry, take out a 2, and you're left with y to the second minus 7y plus 10 equals 0. Then I'm going to factor, so it goes to y and y. Signs are the same, they're both negative. 5 and 2 multiply to give me 10, and add to give me 7. So that gives me y equals 2 and y equals 5. So I'm going to go something comma 2, something comma 5. The nice thing about substitution is the second number is easy to find. So if y is 2, you have 7 minus 2, which is a 5. If y is a 5, you have 7 minus 5, which is a 2. So it's 5 comma 2, 2 comma 5. Now everybody listen. It doesn't make sense to write it as an ordered pair. The only time you write it as an ordered pair is if they give you the equations. They didn't give me the equations. Read the question. Find the numbers. Can someone tell me the answer? It's just 5 and 2 or 2 and 5. The order doesn't matter, and that's how you're going to write your answer right there. The numbers are 2 and 5. Okay? Okay, that's it. Who says that wasn't too bad? I'm okay. Yeah, see, I think you can do it. I just think it's a lot. Okay? All right. So